That's the wisdom of God. Oh.
Okay, so I'm waiting for it to come up on here. Hello, our viewers. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us. We're doing checks. Mr. D, please let me check on my walls. LinkedIn. Let me go to my LinkedIn wall. LinkedIn family, if you're there, say hi. I'm trying to check whether we're live on LinkedIn. Welcome, everyone, to this particular episode. And recently, I had the distinct pleasure, by the grace of God, to celebrate. Uh, yes, we're live on LinkedIn to
Okay.
celebrate 16,000 followers on LinkedIn. To my 16,143 followers on LinkedIn, I love you, appreciate you. Thank you so much. So we're live on LinkedIn. LinkedIn sorted. Yes, we're live on Instagram too. I can see Instagram now. So I'm going to press go live. So we're live on Instagram. Yes, we're live on Instagram now. We are live. Welcome, dear Instagram family. Welcome, IG family. I appreciate all of you for coming. It's going to be an awesome time of learning. And I welcome Mr. Tipo too
Thank you
for
so much.
coming today to grace this beautiful learning opportunity. We appreciate your good works, and learning from you is always a pleasure. I'm just trying to invite people and bring them into the Instagram family group. I want everyone to please share with friends and family, gather everyone around who is a manager, team leader. We would like all of you. K Banks on Instagram, I just saw you. Thank you for joining me. So, LinkedIn is live, Instagram is live. Let me see Facebook. I just want to be sure everyone is covered. If you see me on Facebook, say yeah. I can't see Facebook yet. Let me check. I think I'm on my page on Facebook. I'm trying to see Facebook now. Facebook family. I think yeah. I'm live on Facebook. I can see Facebook too. I think I can see Facebook too. Facebook, thank you for joining us. Team leader. We would like all of you. K Banks on Instagram. I just saw you. Thank you for joining me. So LinkedIn is so that's Facebook family there. The last group I want to see is YouTube. YouTube. This we have to do all the time to ensure we are live on all the necessary platforms. Yeah, it's live on YouTube view channel. Live. Okay, okay. I think I can see YouTube now. Yes, we are live on YouTube. We're live on YouTube. Although I can't see the transmission, I don't know why, but I think I can see that we are live. It's giving me a report that we are live, but I can't see the transmission myself. All right. Um, awesome time ahead of us. Thank you, everyone. Welcome, IG family. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for coming in to join us. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, IG family. Really appreciate you all. Welcome, IG family. Okay. Shala Daniel Yomi, thank you. K Banks, thank you. I see you. Mr. Dipo and I this evening have a very interesting topic in front of us. Mr. Dipo Adeshida is the Chief Operating Officer at Vedant Zeal. That's a leading marketing communication powerhouse operating out of Africa, West Africa, precisely in Lagos, Nigeria. Mr. Dipo, as we all know, we met him the last time, has a very interesting story of how he faced some serious, heavy negativity and he turned that into results. I'm totally excited to have him in our midst. For those who might not know Mr. Adeshida. He is an astute marketing communications professional with over 19 years experience as writer, brand strategist, creative director, TV, radio, and presenter. He's currently the Chief Operating Officer at Vedansil Group, a leading advertising agency. He's got several marketing communicate. He's led, I beg your pardon, several marketing communications campaigns across different industries, in such as telecommunications, excuse me, my friends, financial services, oil and gas, hospitality, aviation, fast moving consumer goods, conglomerates, insurance, agriculture, technology, e commerce, and more. He has also worked on several public sector projects across the federal, state, and local governments, which include partnerships with multilateral agencies such as the SAID, UNICEF, DFID, AU, ECOWAS, AFDB, and others. Oladipo holds a first degree in dramatic arts from the prestigious Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, a diploma in filmmaking from New York Academy, a certificate in marketing from the Chartered Institute of Marketing, United Kingdom. He's also an alumnus of the British Council at the University of Glamorgan, now South Wales, Centre for Creative Enterprise Development. He's an associate member of the Advertising Practitioners Council of Nigeria, APCON, and one of the 500 young Africans to meet President Barack Obama as Mandela Washington Fellows. Oladipo Adeshida is a citizens diplomat with the Northern Nevada International Center, Reno, Nevada, in the United States, and a LEAP African mentor. Join me, welcome Mr. Adeshida. I'm totally excited to have you. God bless you. Forgive me that we're starting late. How are you, sir?
Very well, thank you. And how are you two doing?
I'm totally excited. I am fine. I'm alive. I'm appreciating your good work. Thank you for always giving us an opportunity to learn from you. Thank you so much, sir. How are you doing and how is the family?
Everyone is doing very well. Schools have resumed, so we're on the we're on the circuit again. School runs. It's interesting to see how babies of yesterday have become men and women of today. So
Time always flies. Time always flies.
yeah,
Today we're looking at new agility tools and techniques, and from fragility to anti-fragility. Fragility, as we know it, is the principle that all systems break down from time to time, and anti-fragility is a concept that, despite breaking down, they can become stronger, so that every breakdown is opportunity for improvement. Um, the concept before us today is how do we reprogram teams under under sprint stress. It's not a matter of if, but when stress will come. Stress will come. As a chief operating officer, as one who has gone through sufficient stress yourself as a human being, what's your philosophy about stress? Especially team stress. Stress that's not yours. You've overcome it. But how do you, especially when you're leading a team, prepare them for stress and ensure that despite stress, you overcome? Because the rule is that if we get the mindset of the person who has succeeded at it, we can use it for further development. So, how do you um, recognize stress and also help the team to overcome it and deliver results despite the stress?
okay. Thank you very much. And it's very interesting that we're starting on the note of stress. For anyone who is involved in any kind of endeavor, there is potentially stress. Stress is an add-on. It's a byproduct of trying to get anything done, and that's
Mm,
because there are always so many moving parts. There's this triangle that has time, cost and quality. And in that careful balance of trying to say we want to get it, we want something of high quality, but we don't have the time and we don't have the money, it produces stress. We want something that is cheap, uh, but we want it in time, which is good. But then the quality is suspect. So it's like you have this triangle that is constantly moving. Um, it's in very rare cases that you have all three tangents sufficiently provided for where you have time, where quality is definitely assured, and you have all the resources. So that essentially is what produces stress. Trying to balance these three variables, and it's a consistent conversation with corporate organizations, with teams, because especially when you're on a project and when you think that you have delivered to time, and then there's a new requirement that you didn't factor in, it produces stress because in your mind you have you have programmed yourself to deliver something and you think you have achieved it, but all of a sudden a new variable is introduced and the whole shebang almost comes down like a pack of cards. So that essentially is it. And I think the once teams get to understand that they're going to have to deal with these variables constantly, then they can prepare themselves for eventualities. It is it is very risky to plan a project without assuming that one of these constraints won't set in. One or more of these constraints will not set in. No matter how well a project is planned, these things usually come in. So teams need to then build resilience in asking themselves, what do we do if we don't have enough time? What do we do if we don't have enough budget? And what do we do if quality is almost being sacrificed because people want? Do you understand? Those things are a necessary part of team conversations because no matter how well you have planned, there is someone on the other side who can have a brainwave, who can suddenly require something new that you didn't plan. There is feedback from customers, feedback from users who say, yeah, it's okay, but and once that bot is introduced, everything that you have planned has to be redesigned. So those are the real challenges that teams have to prepare for. And the preparation is mental. I'll give you an instance. Just yesterday, we're doing a project for a client. They have an event in New York this weekend, and you know, so we're here in Lagos doing some work for them. New York right now is 5 hours behind, and um, the client is somewhere in Europe. We are in Lagos, we have a supplier in New York, and we're sort of trying to balance. Okay, we need to produce this thing, but our client needs to approve. And the moment the client approves, you send it to New York to say, okay, go ahead and produce. But then the client 2 hours later says, no, 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 that one I approved. I'm making some changes to it. And someone in another part of the world is saying, look, this is not like Nigeria where you can say you beg the printer and say I beg. Everything in this climb is done by the hour. So you have those conversations and you have those new requirements that show up even when your intentions are at best um, pure and professional, those things still come in. So teams have to understand that they will come. Now, the way the team is then structured will help them overcome these issues of stress. The organizations that if you work with them and you bring in new requirements, you get a bill straight up. There's no, you know that because they're going to have to deploy other resources to meet these new requirements, there's an existing understanding that you're going to have to pay. So if you know that you don't make decisions on time and you're going to engage this kind of organization, you just know that look, for every new requirement that you bring in, you're just going to have to part with money. So you're not stressed because someone is sending you a new bill every time you show up. You know that it is one of the requirements, right? And that's sort of how that's sort of how it can work best for teams to build resilience into the planning of the various projects and activities that they have.
All right, thank you so much. I mean, this lines up with what the project management textbooks say, especially in the traditional waterfall methodology. The only question I like to ask is, practically speaking,
Yeah.
based based on your experience and what you've gone through, you have a unique story of resilience, a personal story of resilience. What does resilience look like, especially as an individual that's gone through a trying period in life, so that you can also deploy that into teams? Because you have a basic understanding of the despair and despondency that comes with an unwanted risk event crystallizing, and the kind of experience that you went through. What you said up to now is what the textbook says, but in practical, what are the thoughts, feelings, emotions, and imaginations that made you to, you know, change and evolve into someone that was anti-fragile, which means you became a person of deep resilience and that could call resilience and summon them up into teams and in planning? And how do you impart that into your team members who've not been through that experience, but they can also become more resilient, intelligent?
Okay. So I'll try to break my answer down as simply as possible. And of course
Okay.
with all humility too. Because sometimes when you ask these questions, the impression is that when this was happening, I had it all together. No, I didn't. All right. I didn't have
And
it all
that
together.
and that's the beauty of risk management. You did not plan for it.
Yeah, well, exactly.
It crystallized so that it was outside of your planning zone. That's very powerful.
Yes. So I mean, just to put it in a bit of context, I mean, think about not having your bath for 6 months. Not taking a shower for 6 months. That the only way you could get clean was by people putting a flannel or a towel in water and clean your face and all of that. And when you sort of understand that, look, this is what it is, you suck it up and deal with.
Hmm.
Um, there are things that you can wait out. There are things that you can wait out. But what life also presents to us is that in whatever situation you find yourself, you will see that there are people who are in worse conditions than you are, and they're dealing with.
Hmm.
And you will see people who are in conditions that are not um, as life threatening as yours, who give up. So it's not linear per se. It is
Hmm.
you have um you have different cadres in this whole journey of resilience. And let me tell you something that affected me majorly in this recovery thing. And Dr. Abodunri, you perhaps are one of the few people that I've spent the most time talking about this experience with. I haven't had this conversation in almost 30 years. I've not. I don't know, maybe it's a thing just buried somewhere, but in that world where I was in Kaduna, ABU Teaching Hospital, Kaduna, there was a man there that they called Oga Bala. And if there's anyone who's listening to this that's familiar with ABU Teaching Hospital, Oga Bala had a spinal cord injury, I think in maybe 1970 something. Mind you, we're talking about, I was there in 1990 something. As at that time, he had probably been there for 20 something years.
Hmm.
So This man was a permanent feature in that ward.
Hmm.
That is, his family had neglected him. He had a permanent bed in the hospital, paralyzed from neck down, and just there. Now, I met him there. I was only there for about half a year. So imagine
Hmm.
someone who's been in that place for 24 years before you showed up.
Hmm.
Like, think of, and this man with his neck down paralysis, he would get down from the bed by himself. He would move his wheelchair by himself. I'm saying
Hmm.
someone who cannot move his arms, but
Hmm.
because of maybe the strength of the human spirit,
Hmm.
he had been able to push himself beyond all those physiological limitations to so he was a permanent fixture in the ward. That is, they were giving him free food, free beddings, um you know, they used to call him Ogabala. That was his name, Ogabala. You know, everybody had his family had deserted him. You know, if
Hmm.
you came to Kaduna at that time, you would know Ogabala because he was always there, nowhere to go to. So imagine someone
Hmm.
almost like the movie with Tom Hanks, with the guy who was stuck in the airport terminal without a country. You know, that was this
Hmm.
guy's situation. And
Hmm.
I had to ask myself, this guy's condition is worse than mine, like technically, right? But this dude has he has built strength.
Hmm.
It's funny that I'm thinking about it now, you know. So when you look at people like that, and this guy is not someone that's he's I mean he has a daily routine. When he gets up in the morning, he gets down from his bed onto the wheelchair. You know, I don't even know how he gets on the bed because his bed was further down the ward. But he goes out, you know, to the front of the ward, stays there. And you know, this man had a very sharp mouth. Like he would yab people. You know, he will
Hmm.
fight with nurses, then they would play, they would joke, then he would say he doesn't like the food. Yeah, of course, he will still eat it, all those kind of shakara, you know. But what I'm making that this guy was living his normal life, you know,
Hmm.
going about his day-to-day, you know, duty. Nurses will come, nurses will go, training nurses
Hmm.
will come, finish their training in school, you know. He became like an institution. Now I'm going somewhere with what you're inferring about how how you build these things. As people go through experiences in life, we'll all be exposed to different types of stimuli. There'll be some that will look life threatening, but there are also things around us that we would observe, and it is then up to us to draw either strength or to begin to think this thing is too much for me. It's all up to us. It's all up to us.
Hmm.
That is really where the middle line, as the Bible will say, the line of partition is drawn. Because somebody can see two people can see an exact same thing and perceive it very differently, right? For me, thinking
Hmm.
about Agabala in that state, I used to wonder, how has this guy been coping all these years? Like, what has he been doing? What's on his mind? He doesn't work, but what is he thinking about? And I thought to myself that if someone whose condition that I reckon to be worse than mine is moving on with life, I don't have an excuse, really. Like, whatever, it's going to be fine. Everything's going to be okay, right? Everything's going to be fine. Um,
Hmm.
so that's sort of how I think people can see it. That there will always be people that have worse conditions than you, and they're making progress, and there'll be people who have and this is not in any way to lighten the problems that people go through, but there are people who might have seemingly lighter issues, and they might begin to feel like they're victims, that things have gone all bad for them and nothing can ever be
Hmm.
redeemed. For me, I think that when we experience stress and we experience crisis, we should ask ourselves, could it be worse? Is there somebody going through something that is worse now and making the most of it? And if that answer is yes, then perhaps we should think that we really don't have much to complain complain or worry about, that it will be fine, because eventually everything is going to be fine. Um, I want to draw a quick inference from one of my colleagues when I started working advertising as a copywriter, as a junior copywriter. Those days we used to sleep in the office. So we used to spend sometimes 72 hours in the office. We won't go home. We'll just be working. You walk through the day, walk through the night, walk through the day, walk through the night. Then you go home on the third day, you know. And there was this particular, time that, like, I was feeling like I was doing so much, but it wasn't. With them, you go for a pitch, the pitch is not successful, then you just feel like all the work that you've done has gone down the drain. And
Mhm.
one of my senior copywriters then, Dayo Adefila, he told me that, don't worry, everything's going to be okay. And he was very calm about it. He said, don't worry, everything's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. I
Hmm.
was trying to explain to him that, bros, you don't understand. Like, we are working and things are not, you know, I know as a young guy, you had plans for your life. You thought, okay, you get married, you build your house, you have a car. I mean, I'm talking about the time when none of this looked possible. It just felt
Mhm.
like just working, 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 working.
Hmm.
And he just, don't worry, you'll be fine. And those words have stuck with me because today I look back, sometimes, members of the team they are jittery because, maybe a deadline is coming and they haven't finished the work, or, a client has made a very snide statement about their work and they're hassled and all of that. And I find myself repeating those words to say, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. And it applies to relationships too, marriages, financial situations, whatever it is. I think if people have that mindset that everything eventually is going to be fine, the stress level comes down a great deal, because stress is
Hmm.
not knowing how things are going to pan out. And
Hmm.
no matter what it is, we're going to be fine. We're
Hmm. So the first step in going from that stress situation and developing anti-fragility is to calm down and know that eventually everything would be fine. You said let's avoid victim mentality, pity party,
yeah,
and ask yourself, could it be worse or could it be worse off?
yeah,
Could it be far worse is middle, worst is could it be even be far on the negative side? If
yeah,
yes, then let's progress from there. What you're saying is that everything has a life cycle. So
mm,
when you understand that on your job and in your career, it doesn't matter what hasn't worked well, you have energy to be able to think resilient. You said something very important. You said, look, the same condition, the same situation that happened to A would happen to B, and B will lose their cool. And B believes that everything is done, dead. You can't go ahead, you can't do anything else. Thank you so much for that. So what you're saying, so for every team leader, is the ability to inspire hope. That's
absolutely.
the first step in anti-fragility. How do you develop anti-fragility? The belief system. It starts from a belief system. How do you build a belief system? The thoughts, the feelings, the emotions and imaginations, the conversations within the team must spark hope. It must be a Mr. Bala conversation. Mr. Bala is stuck in the hospital. He sees people die every day, yet Mr. Bala is still yabbing people,
Mm,
meaning he's engaging life. He complains about the food. He's accepted where he is and he's making the best of it. Of course, he didn't pray for that place, he didn't want that place, but with what he has, he's trying to make the future hold. My question is, thank you for that anyway. So, my question is for a team leader, how do you communicate this to your team and keep that atmosphere alive in a consistent, continuous way, so that they never
mm.
forget it and it becomes a team culture? How do you sustain that message? Because after telling them, because there's something called messaging fatigue. So, how do you ensure that they are not fatigued and that becomes a culture? What can you do to program your team to go from that fragility state to anti fragility, where even after you have left the team continues in that spirit? You mentioned Mr. Adefila, who I also know is a mentor to me, remarkable gentleman, super amazing. If I he has a very interesting mien, and I always smile around him.
Oh,
He's always like he calls me pastor. Say pastor, everything will work well. Don't worry. It's a step at a time. He always says that. A
oh yeah.
remarkable gentleman.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah. So please
yeah.
let's talk about
Yeah.
that, please.
Well, so another thing as a leader is that you inspire hope, but you also don't shield your people from facing the fire as well. You know,
Okay.
um, and it's a bit of the push and pull strategy, right? Where a leader a leader's posture shows that look, no matter what happens, we're going to be fine, but
Mm,
also gives the team members the opportunity to feel the fire every now and then, push
mm,
them down the ledge, see how far they fall before they break, and then pick them up. The next time you
mm,
do it, stay withdraw a little longer, you know so that they don't build um they don't become averse to stress. And it's very important to do this for teams. Team members can sometimes be so protected by their leaders that they then develop weaknesses. They
mm,
don't have a strong sense of judgment, because I see this a lot in the civil service. In the civil service,
mm,
everybody always lines up behind the most senior person, even if they're making a wrong statement or judgment. Everybody's always my leader, my this, my that. There's no reward for having objective opinions about things. Pecking order only rewards you to be in some state of subservience, right? And so a leader can take the bullets for the team, because that's what leaders do, but that should be done with a sense of um, responsibility, knowing that everyone in the team contributes to the strength of the team. So
mm,
leaders should give people the opportunity to also face stress, to take decisions, to use
mm,
their intuition, to use um, their own sense of, if I was in this situation and there was no one here to help me, what would I do? To
mm,
build the general resilience of that team, so that even if
mm,
the figure of um, leadership is not present, people have the confidence to fit into that role and take decisions. It's extremely important. This model plays out in the corporate environment. It plays out in sports, especially. Sometimes in sports you might have a de facto leader of the team that's not the captain. It's just somebody that people generally gravitate around because they're charismatic. They have a way of getting people to do things, even though they're not the captain and they're not the coach. In fact, sometimes those kinds of people and the coach have issues because the players tend to lean more towards them, and not and not the official leader of the team. And people who have those responsibilities need to understand that it's not just about them, it's about the team. The better the team is, the stronger the team is, the stronger everybody gets at the end of the day, the more successful they get at the end of the day. So that's what I would say. Leaders should, as much as possible, inspire hope, but also give their people the opportunity to be resilient, open them up to challenges that they've never done before, and see how they would take it. Even if they fail, sometimes, and not even sometimes, encourage them to take risks. If it blows up in their face, well, I mean, it's bad. Pat them on the back and say, give this another shot tomorrow. But And even if you're the type that's, harasses people when they do things wrong, do not kill that spirit of innovation or trying, because it's all still part of how to handle stress. There are people today that have not attempted to do anything simply because they're afraid of what their 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 leaders will say. They're afraid to to be spoken, to be told of. They're afraid of a negative appraisal. They're afraid of, you know, a project failing. And because of that, they've not even attempted to do anything. And that is not healthy for a team.
Hmm.
So a leader should be able to defend the team before, let's say, management, to say, look, we took this decision because we felt it was in the best interest of the organization. And if there's fire, the team lead should be able to take it. But the people should also realize that they are being put in that position so that they themselves can become original thinkers. They themselves can become people who, when they have an idea of something, they can give it a shot. They know that this kind of leader is someone that will defend us, even if this thing doesn't work out the way we think it should. And that's how organizations escape the redundancy trap. Because if the leader alone is the one that's taking all the decisions and people around think that they can do it otherwise, but they don't have the confidence to speak up, that organization is eventually going to end up in a rabbit hole, because they're only letting one person dictate everything, and they're not even putting themselves out to other perspectives.
You said so many things. You said so many things in a very, very short time and condensed together, and it requires some unpacking. How do you? Because there's something you went through. You said you had to depend on somebody else, for example, helping you take your bath. Now that is teamwork right there. That person is necessary to your healing. That person is so. So how do you go to the point as a leader where you can trust people? You know what they
Mm,
say. What they say. If somebody does something to you, you want something done for yourself, just do it yourself. You want something done very well, just do it for yourself. How do you get to the point where you give your people opportunity to fail? I understand the two parts of the equation: inspire hope, build resilience. Building resilience contains the opportunity for them to fail,
yeah,
and then be ready to back them up and build that risk taking appetite,
yeah,
change their risk taking DNA,
yeah,
take them from risk averse and risk neutral behavior to risk acceptance behavior, of course, practicing all the mitigants and all of that. And the idea of agility, anyway, is that we fail at this sprint, we can take a break, and at the next sprint, we can come back and revisit it. The system can self correct, which is another beautiful genius with agility. My
yeah,
bigger point, my bigger point is, how do you grow your trust in your people as a leader? The ability to hold your breath and allow people fall off a cliff because you're not a wicked person, you've been through pain yourself, and the first is that you're protective as a leader. How do you get to the point where you allow people to make their own mistakes? I mean, I'm the kind of person that I want to hold people's hands and legs, and to the point that they are too extreme. So it's either I don't care at all or I care and over care. How do you get to the point where you're able as a leader to let people make their mistakes, yet providing guardrails so that the bigger entity does not fail or the
mm.
bigger objective doesn't fail? How do you design that kind of experiment and knowing the context of work and all of that?
That's a very interesting question. In fact, there's some events. We have a particular client that we do events for, you know, two, three, four times, in the course of a year. And when we first onboarded that client about 7 years ago, I was the go-to for the client. In fact, my name was almost synonymous with the company, because I had to. In fact, there was a time I was going to Abuja twice a week. I did that for almost 2 months. Because the company was just starting. They needed guidance. We also had needed to handhold them. But we did that, and after a while, there was a day that I discovered something that the dependency was becoming too much.
Hmm.
Even an intern in the company will call me for something I consider to be, and I figured out that I was the cause of it. I think I was beginning to enjoy the the fact that I was the go-to person. But it was then becoming, because the company was getting bigger and bigger, and they were recruiting more staff, and someone would call and say, "Can you do this?" And I'm like thinking, "Hey, uh, you know, do you know do you know who I am?" And I mean that in a very jocular way, but the point was that we had to bring in new people into the workflow.
Hmm.
Um, and some of the people that we brought were people who had never done any of that work before. They had other disciplines. So of course, as leader of the team, um, I said I'm taking my hands off this thing gradually. So started bringing them into meetings, started bringing them into projects,
Hmm.
started traveling with them. You know,
Hmm.
started traveling with them. Started when they call, I say no, 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 talk to this person. Started withdrawing myself gradually from emails, um, until we got to the point where they could travel for events by themselves without me being there and without the client even asking for me. That was the point where I knew that the plan had worked, because
Hmm.
when the client starts to get comfortable with other people in the team, and because they know that it's the organization is not built around you, and that even if any of those people leave today, we have a pipeline of at least two, three people that can do the same thing. So what we've done is to build a culture of everyone understanding what the client's business is about,
Hmm.
putting them through that stress test of attending meetings, of speaking directly to the client, of being jittery at first to say I don't know what I'm going to tell them, or and to say okay, hey, pick the call and call the person and tell them. Use and like okay, they were not that scary after all, to go into the next level of traveling with them, because when you travel with someone, it's a big deal. It's a it means that out of all the people in the organization, you've picked them to to do something honorable. But when you tell people to travel alone for a client engagement, it's even a bigger repose of trust. So that's sort of how we've been able to. And I'm just giving you one particular case where um, we've been able to get people to become more confident in their abilities, to allow them fail. There have been times where they've made mistakes. Uh, in fact, there was a particular project that we went to do, and even though I went for the project, but it was really more out of courtesy for the client that I went, not to do any work. And the day we were all returning, we were on the same flight, but we stayed in different hotels. I get to the airport and I find out that these guys had checked in and just about to go on board. And they were arriving after me, and they had closed the counter. And they had closed the counter. Four of them, is it four or five? Five of them, they had missed their flight, you know.
Hmm.
And the event was so successful, and they ran the event. I mean, I was just there for just as a guy now, just to come and to come and show face. And they missed the flight. They missed the flight. Um, so you know what I did? I said, "Don't worry, all of us are going to stay back." So I stayed back with them, um, and we left the next day. Just as a posture to the management that we're all in this, because they had really worked so hard to
Hmm.
to bring that project to life. Like they really worked hard. And as against me just catching my flight and moving on, say, well, you guys sort yourselves. I said, no, don't worry, we'll stay. So we stayed back one more day. Left the next morning, left the next afternoon, because the only available flight was going to be the next afternoon. You know,
Hmm.
so people will make mistakes. It is unavoidable.
mm,
It's just the degree to which they will make the mistakes and the degree to which you can help them learn from those mistakes that
mm,
people then get to build trust. So, and of course, I make it as a joke every time to say, don't miss your flight. Though. That one, it was a one time payment. If you miss it again, I will not answer you.
mhm, 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 mhm,
you know,
mm,
so helping people understand that they will make mistakes, but not killing them for it. I mean, sometimes you allow the consequence to blow up in their face and allow them to learn the lesson, allow them to even fix it. There have been times when things happen that the person involved knows that, no, I need to fix this thing. I need to fix it myself. So rather than come to report themselves to say this, they find a way to fix it. And that's the whole point of leadership. That's the whole point of agility. To say this thing has gone wrong, what should I do? That's the whole point of agility. For people to get to the point where they realize that they can do something about it, as against just throwing their hands up in the air to say, well, an error has been made. Oh, sorry, forgive me, forgive me. No, this is not about forgiveness. This is about something has been done wrong and something triggers you to say, I can fix it. You know what? Just give me 2 hours. I'll get this thing
mm,
done. If you have that kind
mm,
of person in your team, keep them. They're
mm,
leader potential because
mm,
you understand that in the course of getting things done, you would have mismatches in all these variables like we talked about, budget, time, quality. But if the day they get to the point where they can say, hold on, I think I know what to do to fix this thing, you've unlocked a great team member. And those
mm,
kind of people empower them more to do, to take incremental risks or incremental projects or incremental responsibilities,
mm,
protect them when necessary, but other times allow them to free fall and see how their genius comes alive. Yeah.
mm, mm. All right. Thank you so much. Expect your team to make mistakes and plan to train them by situations and real life scenarios. Also, build them in the course of getting things done. There will be problems, errors, challenges. Build your team to take on incremental risks despite those things, and build their capacity up in an incremental manner. Uh, there is Modipe Ariyo who says leadership intention, and I see somebody say Brother Austin. Brother Austin is one of my very good brothers. Please, if you're on the call on any of the platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, Instagram, just give me a shout out. I can see Stadupe Ario. Anyone on the call, just you can ask your questions now. We have just barely about 7 more minutes to end this particular episode. We'll come again your way, Mr. Deepo. We're not sure about next week. We'll let you know either which of the days to be if we are going to be able to meet next week or we come the upper week. Before we have the closing remarks, um, do we have any questions? I can see Modupe Ariel says leader intention. Yes, 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 yes. Let me ask you a question about that. How did you develop leadership intentionality? You mentioned, for example, that you left. Yes, Carol's family will be here. Thank you so much. Appreciating you guys. You mentioned that you left as a tutu student, for example. By the time you came back into the university, by the experience you had become 2-1. Okay, I have. Aha, that's my sister, Bim Babulumole. Thank you. I call her Pastor Bim. So solid sister of mine, known her for many years, on the same campus together, and our good husband, Pastor Dele Bolumole. She says, how did you handle the aspect of cost implications incurred by 5 of them missing their flights? Let's take that one before we come back to Dupe Ariyo's question. Let's take that one before Dupe Ariyo's question because something interesting is going on. It's time
Yeah.
we're open up. We're literally done. We're just opening ourselves now up for questions. So, how did you handle the aspect of cost implications? Let me layer that a little bit, Mr. D.
Okay.
I train project management and as an organizational agile coach.
Uh,
Um, The constraints are more than three. In the complex world that we are in today, the constraints, as you know, and as someone that also drives operation, includes customer satisfaction. Apart from time, costs, and quality, risk itself is a constraint. There's also the business environment or the business case. There's also the idea that the market space is changing. There are about 8 to 10 other items in the constraint bag. So what that change in cost, for example, of them missing the flight in a
Yes.
multi-constrained environment. So how do you handle things like cost that is typically fixed and rigid? Thank you for that beautiful question, Pastor Bimbo, by the way. So let's hear from you. How do you handle that?
Well, so again, in the context of what happened, we had just finished a very successful event. Um,
Okay.
it was a leading to the event. It was a very demanding couple of weeks. A very demanding client. I mean, imagine a client who would not necessarily show any appreciation, that walks to you and says well done, your people, and mentions the name of one of your team members as someone who did, like the person who led the project, to say this person did very well, and then the next day they're at the airport and they miss their flight. I mean, what's the value of money, really? It's not for that kind of thing. It's an encouragement to the team. Right now, it's not a way of rewarding or enforcing bad behavior. I mean, if it was something that was done because the team was being lazy and despondent, then one would say, these guys don't know their work. But this came on the back of a very successful project, and in my capacity um, as someone who led that project, I decided that, look, these people should be covered for this thing that has happened. Money, by God's grace, will make it back. It's another project will come, and we'll look at what the expenses and find a way to make that money back. But how do you build goodwill and confidence in your team members? How do you say, um, hey guys, I'm going to do this for you this time, but if it happens next time, I'm not going to cover you. And if it happens that next time and you don't, they know that it's not because you're wicked. It's just that you have they've seen one side of you and you can see another side, right? So in the context of that event, that kind of gesture was one of saying, look, you guys did very well yesterday. Whatever may have happened, maybe you slept late and whatever. We'll find a way to fix this, but not as a way of encouraging that kind of behavior. And these are people that do not necessarily miss flights. That was the first time it was going to happen. So again, there's always context in these things. But because today we're talking about the backend story clarifies it all. Yes, because today we're talking about agility and we're talking about stress. Um, a leader can say, "Oh, you people are just stressing me. You always miss your flight," and it's not that. In fact, I call it the choir syndrome. It's not in any body of work, but it's what happens in a church when the pastor is early and it's the choir members are the only ones that have come to church, and the pastor is angry because people have come late. But it's the people that are early that you're shouting at. Is the people who have come to church, who have attended the workers' meeting, that you are saying you always come late, you always stress me. The people that are stressing you are not there. Then their homes, they will show up towards the end of the service when it's time for the grace. But it's the faithful ones, it's the dedicated ones that, in many cases, draw a lot
Mm,
from.
mm,
So, as a leader, one must be mindful of these things. The wise people will say, "Don't throw the baby away with the bathwater," and so that's hopefully provides some context.
now that's something very deep. What you call the choir syndrome. A lot of us leaders we do this. The earlier people, the people that come early are punished for late coming of the others. Don't punish the strong or generalize the errors of everyone. And there's
Yeah,
always a context to every story. But
yeah,
but My own last question, if we don't have any question from any of the platforms, please, you have a question, please, you can send it to me. I have to go to Instagram. There's no question on Instagram. But please, I have a personal question to ask on the back end of Pastor Bimbo's question. How do you identify the errors that are genuine and honest versus malicious errors? Some people are really out to destabilize and sabotage, and some persons have a real capability problem. Some people have what do you call that stuff now? You know, these health conditions that don't make they are talented and they are genius and they do a good job. I can see them really struggling. For example, someone who has dyslexia, but they are really brilliant people. And some of us leaders are totally impatient. I have seen myself. Some of us, I personally make a joke that I could be paranoid, thinking somebody wants to sabotage, especially when the budgets are very lean. How do you discover and how do you help those people within the limit of what we have? At what point do you tell somebody, be on your way, we're sorry we can't work together again, although I know it's a honest mistake? How do you have
Mm,
that conversation versus it's a sabotage? How do you know pretenders? Those who really are pretending that it's a honest mistake, meanwhile, they are real saboteurs. They really wanted you to look bad and overbloat budget. That's why they ran late. And they would do, there's something also called malicious obedience, where people obey you, you tell them to put a little salt, they now go and put a whole bag of salt.
mm,
So you said you wanted salt, so they gave you a lot of salt, and you know that's malicious obedience because you can't track them that what they
mm.
did is wrong. How do you manage those kind of things? Complex place to be as a manager. That's my own parting shot. Anyway, that's my last question. If we don't, we're on the top of the almost on top of the hour. We want to keep this about 50 minutes. Anyone you have a question that's very interesting, please throw it quickly. But that's my own question. We'll go to Modupe's question and then we round up.
Okay, so again, I will attempt to answer this question because there's always context, and a position without context will give room for misinterpretation or error. I think that as leaders, we are usually intuitive enough to know people who do things out of malicious intent, and people who perhaps have slower learning curves, and people who are just difficult to work with. The judgment call a leader needs to make is this something that I can deal with consistently? Is this someone I can train? Is this someone I can reassign to another project? Is this someone I have to get rid of? And those decisions have to be made. And it has nothing to do with being liked or being friends with those kind of people. I mean, if you cannot work with somebody because that person consciously sabotages the team, then that person has to be given the boot straight up. If you don't do it as a leader, then it is self-sabotage. It means that you want yourself to fail. It means that you want to devote a lot of the time you should be spending thinking strategically to be managing people issues, and it is not necessary. So a leader has that responsibility because you can tell how much productivity happens when you work with a particular person or when you put a particular person in a particular team. There are people that if you put them in teams, those teams they will never get anything done because they will be so contentious. They will be playing politics and all of that, right? And if you know that people like that, because you just want to maybe get rid of them or have peace of mind, you assign them to a team and you are frustrating the team. What happens is that you will probably lose the good people on that team because they'll get tired and they'll leave, or they may just withdraw their best efforts. And so you have a case where your saboteur is happy because they've disturbed the peace. Your high performer is now apathetic because they feel like they can't get anything done, and you as a leader, you're just condoning it. And you as a leader, you'll be frustrated eventually because the work that's meant to be done will not be done. So a leader has to be able to take certain decisions where you need to get rid of someone from a team or the workplace. You have to do it, and without recourse to how anybody feels about it. It's a workplace. The primary basis for being in the workplace is for productivity, is to get jobs done. It's not friendship. I mean, those things might be byproducts, but the work has to be done. The work has to be prioritized, and that's the job of a leader. A leader, again, as people evolve from, you know, lower management, entry level into middle management, into senior management, the grading criteria changes. It changes from competence now to emotional intelligence. You need to understand how people think. You need to understand how to pair teams. You need to understand body language. You need to understand strategy. Those are things that matter at that level. I'm not sure I answered the question in total, but hopefully that helps.
You have answered it so much. You've said a lot. You've actually said the curriculum of the leader. The leader must grow their discernment, their intuitive calls, because based on that discernment, a bigger decision rests. If you don't know how to identify people and identify errors, there are people that will be consistently late, and from the first day to, let's say, week 10, and it doesn't mean they are being malicious. It may be they are really slow starters. But the same person may be win you an award 3 years down the line. But if you fire that person
Mm,
before the time when their turnaround comes,
yeah.
and you must find a means of getting under their skin to understand which one are you. Are you the one we are waiting for, or have you come to damage us? So that we know the exact good time, whether you are a waste. In code, the word waste is the Japanese word called muda. And there are eight types of waste: waste of idea, waste of motion, waste of conversation, waste of money. So are you muda, which is Japanese word for waste from a production standpoint, or
Mm,
you're just trying to grow? And a leader needs a lot of patience, and you need to grow this skill before the day when people are given to you. Because if you arrive into the room with just your technical capabilities, you will fail in the day of this decision making, because some of the best people will be given to you, but they're solving chemistry problems. They are just being in the weather. I had a team member who used to have a flu. The guy is always taking a lot of leaves many years ago. You won't believe what I found out. Switch off the AC of the office. This is all we needed to do. Mr. D, the guy was in every leave possible. He will take study leave, he will take that leave, he will take this leave. I really, between you and I felt it was malicious. In my heart, I felt this guy was sent because he knows the MD. He was
mm,
sent to make my life harder. This was many, many years ago as a project manager. One day, every 30 minutes, he will go out, he will go and sneeze, he will cough, 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 he will come back. Is this guy lying? One day, the AC packed up for just one day.
and it was fine.
And the boy was more seated. He gave me my deliverables on time. Actually, I'd written to HR, I don't want him anymore in my department. They should please find somewhere else for him. But that evening, I said, wait a minute. So the following day, without telling anybody, I said, please, guys, I'm feeling cold. I pretend like, and meanwhile, the office was not comfortable. I said, can we just switch off the AC today? The guy performed again the third day. So because I wanted to be sure, on the fifth day, I allowed the AC to be on. The behavior returned. The
Returned.
guy,
Wow.
the guy himself wasn't aware that too much cold environment and dust was affecting. Secondly, I relocated him from the window to the middle of the room. Some dust on the window sill affect him. This was in Abuja, in the northern part of Nigeria. It was in Abuja. It was a project
Right.
coordinator that worked with me. So that's an example. I won't forget that lesson all my life. That's an example of my paranoia. The original me, slightly temperamental, I was still very young then. 2007, 2008, I probably would have dealt with the guy. But people have those kind of things and they really have a genuine reason. So, as a leader, you must have gone through your own rigor of
Yeah.
understanding how people are so that you can easily make the decision whether to keep them or to let them go. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. You mentioned brutal productivity, body language, strategy as the new things you must master beyond emotional intelligence, beyond your technical skill set if you're going to be a leader or a manager. Thanks again, Mr. Deepo. We're going to come your way again, my good friends, if you don't have any question. Modibo asked a question. We've answered that question tacitly, which is around the intentionality and design of experiment. A leader must design the development plans of the people. So in terms of resilience, you don't wait until day of adversity to build a resilient team. Throw them in the deep waters sometimes. Be on hand to actually handle the failures, but let them face the crowd. Let them develop their competencies. Help them to grow beyond their Achilles heel before the day of adversity. All right. For everyone who has asked a question across all the platforms, thank you. We were live on Instagram. We've been live on Instagram, on X, on Facebook, and on LinkedIn. We will come again next week or the upper week. We're going to announce on all our platforms. Mr. Deepo may be away next week, so we're not sure in this series, but it's a 7-part series on building resilience into teams and organizations based on Mr. Deepo's experience. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Until we come your way again, we're going to go off live shortly. I appreciate all of you, and I'll say God bless you all. Mr. Deepo, on behalf of all our listeners and everyone watching from all over the world, I want to say thank you so much. You
Thank you.
have been super helpful. Loads of things to learn. I'm going to listen myself. Thank you so much. And goodbye, everyone. Thank you. You know, we love you here. And
Thank you very
go and
much.
be great. Thank you, Mr. Deepo. We're going to go off now and we'll talk back end inside the studio.
Thank you. Bye bye, everyone.
Thank, thank you, sir. Thank
Thank
you.
you.